Hello, Startup Vision TV. It's a pleasure being here today. So hi to all of you. Alizé and Florence, thank you very much for having me. I'm all ready for your questions, Florence. Let's go.
Okay, hello Marc. Thank you so much for being here on Startup Vision TV. So you founded Serena, which is a very successful fund with 5 exits over 100 million euros in the last 5 years. You have a very diversified portfolio and very brilliant too. So can you talk about the vision of Serena? Can you explain?
Okay, well, thank you very much. So listen, the idea of Sarina, when we founded Sarina almost 12 years ago, was the whole concept was to build companies from the ground up. So the idea for us was really to help entrepreneurs execute, finding successful entrepreneurs, people who've been able to either bootstrap or prove that they were able to execute well. And what we do is we help all the entrepreneurs we have in the portfolio with the execution, and we help them move forward, and we build the companies from the ground up. So it's not just a board member approach, it's a very operational approach. And in the history of the 3 founders, we all had started several companies, both in France and in the US, and that allows us and gives us a legitimacy to go out and help other founders build their companies.
So this is very interesting, and we love entrepreneurs on Startup Vision TV, and that's why we had you speak about that, So you are an entrepreneur. How did you move from entrepreneurship to VC?
When you're a good entrepreneur, you think that everything's easy after. When you started your company and you've been able to sell it, you think that you can do it over and over again. And most of all, you can transfer that know-how to other entrepreneurs. And it turned out to be much more complicated than we thought. So the move from VC, from an entrepreneur to VC, forced us into helping others. We went from being in the spotlight to helping others be in the spotlight. We went from having our hands on the steering wheel to having others hold the steering wheel and help them and guide them. So that was a huge learning curve for us. It took us maybe 3, 4, 5 years in order to really calibrate and find the right distance between us and the entrepreneurs we were working with. So on the one side, we kept our reflexes of entrepreneurs. And on the other side, we started developing skills that VCs have in terms of finance and analytics of the portfolio.
So you already went through a few crises, 2001, 2008. So surely a few lessons learned. What would you say, how should the ecosystem react now to go through crisis in general? What do you think?
Well, each crisis is somewhat different. The good news is that we're not repeating the same crisis every time. The bad news is that we have to adapt differently to each one. In 2001, I was in Silicon Valley at the time, and there was a real structural crisis. It was the whole entire tech. I mean, we had to go back to basics. We had forgotten what the basics were, and on the promise of a piece of paper, we had valuations and fundraising that were just completely crazy. So it was really structural to the whole market. 2002 was really a financial issue. The market just dried up and with matters of cash, but the businesses themselves, a lot of them were pretty sound. So we had to survive that crisis by adapting financially. And today we're really facing a sanitary event, which is unprecedented and affects people in different ways. What's interesting in all 3 of these cases is that the VCs and the entrepreneurs who were able to move the fastest were the ones that were able to recover and come out of the crisis the fastest. So taking important decisions or structural decisions for companies early on in in the process is extremely important. And that's something that I believe we have done, and we used our experience doing it. And as soon as we had the first signs of the crisis, we actually moved and helped our entrepreneurs change. Now, what's interesting to observe is some people, some entrepreneurs, some managers are just not made for crisis situations. And that's when it's an extra skill that you can only detect in those times. So that's quite interesting.
So you write about entrepreneurship. You teach entrepreneurship in a prominent business school. Do you think you can make an entrepreneur, or do you think you have to be an entrepreneur at your core?
Wow, interesting question. I don't think you can. I strongly believe you can't make an entrepreneur. I believe you can find a diamond in the rough, and you can help it shape it, but the diamond has to be there. You don't invent diamonds. So taking it from a rough mold and turning it into something that's shiny and actually can do something really beautiful is really what the role of people around entrepreneurs needs to be. But there to say that an entrepreneur we can make an entrepreneur, I don't think so. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and very early on you see if the students are entrepreneurs or not. And it's really something that's deep down inside. It has to be, it's a passion. It's something that doesn't, when you decide to be a doctor or decide to be, to help out others, it's not something you decide, it's who you are, it defines you. And being an entrepreneur is how you are defined, and going to accelerators or having experience or going to business school really helps that rough shine come off and make it much more shiny, I guess.
Yeah, because that's exactly what you say. Shiny is the word, but because it's the new glamour now to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. Before it was finance, or it was to be a singer, but now young people, they all want to be entrepreneurs, and it's a tough job, as you know.
Being an entrepreneur is extremely tough. It's risking a lot of things. It's for the most part not being paid. A lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, we only talk in the media and the news of the successful entrepreneurs. We very, very seldom talk about the entrepreneurs who actually fail or haven't been able to start up their company or even raise money. And those are tough, really, really tough times. Now, the flip side of that is when you're actually able to get your company off the ground and you're actually able to change the world, then you're in a position that's absolutely fantastic. It's an adventure that is very hard to find in anywhere else in the world today. I mean, crossing the Atlantic is an incredible experience, but how many people actually go out there and do it, and how many people dream about it, and it's already been done quite a bit. It's not the same as when Christopher Columbus crossed the ocean blue a few hundred years ago and crossing the Atlantic today. So yeah, I think it takes a lot in terms of personality. It takes a lot in terms of smarts, being street smart and being able to adapt. So it's a very delicate balance between passion on one side and ability to listen on the other. And when you can find that right combination, which is extremely difficult, then you're onto something really hot.
Now, Marc, let's speak about the world of tomorrow, a world where, respecting diversity and the environment could be the norm. And then, as a fund, how do you explain it to LPs?
Okay. I think that this last COVID crisis was quite interesting in that it helped see what the world is like, or what the world can become again with no economy functioning. And all of a sudden you started seeing animals come out, and you started seeing pockets of pollution disappear. And in a very short period of time, you actually saw the earth and Mother Nature come back to life. which was really interesting. You know, obviously there's some really bad news and sad news that came of this crisis, but at the same time, we saw some really interesting things. And I think that more and more we can't put an opposition between being socially responsible, being environmentally responsible, and the fact of making money. I think that the pushing companies, making money, changing the world, getting paid for that is something that's extremely important. But at the same time, the notions of being aware of our surroundings and respecting those surroundings and helping them out, and that works both socially and environmentally. So I would think that there's a bigger dose of a bigger mix in terms of the origins of people in startups. I think we need to have, you know, a wider diversity, so we have a better understanding of what's around us. It can't just be white males that are sole founders of companies. We have to diversify that base, and in the same way with the environment, it's something that we can't not look at from day one of the foundation of a company. And that might come to reducing maybe some of the growth potential, but it's a short-term loss for a long-term win, which is the way I see it. And that's how I talk to my LPs about it.
That's great. That's great. So positive. Thank you, Marc. It was great having you here on Startup Vision. Thank you for taking time to speak to us.
Yeah, thank you to Elise. Thank you to you, Florence. So great having answering your questions, available anytime you want, and good luck to both of you.
Hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye, Marc. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.